Good morning. It's Sunday, March 19th. And I don't have to tell you this, but I'm going to anyhow. Vladimir Putin was accused by the International Criminal Court of war crime. They actually issued a warrant for Vladimir Putin's arrest. So when I think about this, I wonder how this works. How this international crime will be recognized and tried, or whatever the procedure is. So let me tell you what I found out. So Putin has really been under investigation since 2014, when he took over Crimea, right? And the head of the International Criminal Court's prosecution team has talked about his efforts and the need to methodically build a case of proof. He said the likelihood that Russia's president will ever actually physically see the inside of a courtroom as long as he remains in power seems very, very slim. But having said that, this is what Putin is facing. The International Criminal Court has definitions for genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression. And there's a whole guide that they published about what constitutes those particular crimes. The interesting thing is that the International Criminal Court is really a treaty that was signed by 123 different countries. And interestingly enough, now Russia and the U.S. have signed the treaty, but they're not members for different reasons. Now, the International Criminal Court tries people, not countries, and focuses on those who have the most responsibility, which is basically the leaders and the officials of countries. And so Ukraine is not a member of the court, but it has previously accepted its jurisdiction. Under that acceptance, Putin becomes eligible for being indicted by the court for ordering war crimes in Ukraine. However, the International Court does not conduct trials in absentia. So he would have to be handed over, Putin would have to be handed over by Russia or arrested outside of Russia. And that does not seem likely as long as Putin is in power. And the International Court does not handle anything except those crimes I mentioned before: genocide, crimes against humanity, crimes of aggression, and war crimes. That's their business. And the court is made up of 18 justices who serve 9-year terms. Now, a national government or the UN Security Council can refer cases to the court for investigation. Now, Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council and has veto powers over the Council's actions. So it was requests by 39 national governments, most of them European, that sparked the current investigation. So even though Russia had some veto powers, 39 countries went to bat for Ukraine, went to the International Criminal Court to prosecute Putin. The International Criminal Court is not political. They're not part of any geostrategic or geopolitical divisions that exists around the world. They just watch what's going on around the world, and then they take action when it's necessary. And how long do these investigations take? They take a long time. If you look at this investigation, it started in 2014 when Russia usurped the Ukraine. So if you go from 2014 to 2023, that's 9 years. That's 9 years before they took any action against Putin. So to me it looks slow and ineffective. But it has a political effect in that the whole world has recognized and pointed a finger at Putin. So that's the good part of it. As to whether he will ever be convicted, that's a whole other issue. And let's recognize the fact that there are many out there, many other governments that are out there that happen to be on Putin's side. But in spite of that, the Ukraine situation is slightly different than most of the others. because there has been an extraordinary outpouring of support from dozens of countries supporting the Ukraine. So when we look at this situation, the International Criminal Court case could affect the Russia-Ukraine conflict, because they could create a political atmosphere, a worldwide political atmosphere, that would not be good for Russia, not be good for Putin. This could affect Putin at home, actually. People might start looking at it differently. And the Russians might come to realize that Putin is no longer the right man to serve their country. Now, that's a long shot. I grant you that's a long shot. But that could be on the table, because I don't know how the Russian populace would necessarily take to this. And I bet you there are many people in Russia who are not happy with the Ukraine situation to begin with. But I don't know how that really affects the structure of that country at this point. Because Putin, I am sure, has many allies, many oligarchs in that nation that will stand by him. So maybe the International Criminal Court will make it difficult for him outside the country, and he may not be able to leave Russia anytime soon or ever again, except maybe in a coffin. This is not a good situation for him. Not a good situation for the oligarchs either. As I said before, Russia and the U.S. are not members of the court. And Russia pulled out in 2016 after they got the Crimea and after the court, I guess, sanctioned them at that point. So the Russians pulled out. The U.S. never really joined the International Criminal Court. George Bush signed the treaty. But it has always been the fear of the U.S. that the International Criminal Court would get into the business of sanctioning the U.S. military-wise, because of our involvement all around the world with our military. So the U.S. has never joined the court. They never wanted to deal with that. They never wanted to have to deal with those situations that could come up, because American civilians and American citizens would be put in arbitrary standards of justice someplace, somewhere, somehow, But the U.S. still supports the court. They're not against the court. They're just not going to be members of it. So I leave you with that crazy situation. And I am hoping that something good comes of this. And the good part would be if Putin loses power and the Ukraine war ends. That would be the best thing that could happen. So who knows? Who knows? But the International Criminal Court is an interesting situation. Nevertheless, that's all I have to say today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.